Hi, Rafael. How are you?
I'm fine. Good morning.
Good morning to you. I'm so excited to talk to you today about this docu-series, John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. So many questions that I have. I know we don't have all the time to get through them all, but I want to start. You were involved from the beginning with this case, and you guys were initially investigating a missing person for Robert Peace. Raphael, walk us through the moment you find and you get the second search warrant for John Gacy's house and you find the first set of remains, the bones. Walk us through that moment. Was that taxing on you emotionally? Because you had been on the force for 8 years at that time. Walk us through that moment for you.
Well, the fact of the matter was that this, as you stated, started as a missing persons investigation. So that's all we were looking for.
Mhm.
We had actually done one search warrant already and got some information that there might be other missing kids that were associated with John Gacy. So we were preparing ourselves for basically for anything because we didn't know what there really was. I mean, these boys could have been associated with him in as far as being dead, but then again, we had no evidence of that. So when the first remains, or actually were femurs, left femurs that were discovered in the when we finally started digging the second search warrant, at that point it was kind of like a what do we got here? And
Right.
so we stopped, and we you really didn't have a chance to do a lot of soul search or anything. We stopped because that was what we had to do to get the coroner, the prosecutor's office, everybody together to make sure that we were covered. We knew for a fact because it was not Robert, because these were bones already, and he'd only been missing for 10 days. So we wanted to make sure that in order for us to be legally able to dig up the whole place, we want to make sure we're on the right legal track. So it didn't give you a chance to do much more than wonder at that point.
I mean, and it's so revealing and so intoxicating to watch this docu-series. You were finding 3 to 4 bodies a day, right? And then you were having to record and go over like body number 4 or body number 5. I want to find out from you because this didn't start in Chicago. It actually, his first, arrest was in Iowa. How was he able to go undercover for so long? Because he had several arrests, even when he got to Chicago before this even happened. How was he able to be a devil in disguise? How was he able to be arrested and let go so often without any, accountability and be able to be released and this happened? How did that happen?
Well, there's several reasons. One, he's a very smart man. He was a
Mhm.
very smart man, as most serial killers are. They're intelligent human beings. Two, he had a good gift of gab. He could talk people to believe in anything he said. And thirdly, a lot of these boys were street boys. They might have been homosexuals or gay now, as you call them. And in 1972, that he started through 78, those 6 years, I got to admit, nobody cared too much about what happened to gay individuals. They didn't have the protection, if you may, that they have now. I mean, now
Right,
they're a powerful political section. At that
right.
time, it was just okay. It's just another gay guy. Nobody cared. And since a lot of these were street kids, parents didn't care. They'd abandon them or they'd run off. So nobody was there to say, "Hey, where's my son?" Or
Right. Well, one of the kids, and that was what was documented in the series, was that he began to blame the victims. Like, well, they weren't, they were this or they were that. They deserved it, if you will, right? Um, would that be able to happen? The John Wayne Gacy case, would that be able to happen today in today's time?
well, the circumstances were the same where these were street kids.
Mhm.
Happened for a little while, but no, probably not. Now they've changed all the missing reports. At that time, a lot of agencies wouldn't even take a report until you were gone for 24 hours.
Right.
Pretty much mandated to take a report right away. You got more social media that people can go back and forth. I mean, the police use social media too to check to see if he's checked in with someone, see who the friends are. They can, tap into that resource. So it probably wouldn't happen today, no.
When you were driving AC from to county lockup, I believe it was, from the courthouse to lockup, and he told you and you asked him, were there other bodies? And he said, well, you'll have to do your work and do your job and
Right.
find them. And, watching the documentary, there were still 8 that were, supposedly out there. Where are we today with the victims? Or have we found or are the victims all identified? Can you walk us through or talk a little bit about that?
Well, there was 33 victims altogether. At that time, we identified all but 8. Since then,
Mm-hmm.
you have to realize there was no DNA at the time. The way we
Right.
identified people were through dental charts or x-rays of broken bones.
Mm-hmm.
So when he told me that there was others, you have to remember he was a guy that if you knew something or you were going to find out, he'd be totally honest with you. Because once he knew that we were digging up the basement, he drew us a map of where all the bodies were.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to find out anyway. And his concern was that we didn't mess up his house. But if he didn't think you would find out or you were going to get stuck on it, then he'd play coy and drop little hints like the thing about 45 bodies. So are there more? I believe him. I believe there are more. But unless we have someone that can say, yes, these guys were associated or these bodies were associated and there's some of his DNA on them, I'm afraid we're just never going to be able to identify them. And as far as the 6 that are still unidentified, maybe these are the 6 of the victims whose families didn't care about them and they'll never come forward.
And speaking of the families, Rafael, can you speak to this a little bit? A lot of the families said that they would come forward and report that their kids were missing, and that Chicago PD or Death Claim, your office, they didn't do anything. They wouldn't. They would just say, "Oh, well, they maybe just went for the weekend, or they just wanted to run away." Can you talk a little bit about the lack or the hesitancy in helping those families back then at that time when they would come forward about their missing child?
Well, let's be fair to the police too, is that not every kid that was recovered had
Mm-hmm.
been, not all of them. So in that sense, you got to say they did okay. But a lot of things happened at that time. And in that time, I'd say 98% of the kids that were reported missing were back the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a big deal at that time. And unfortunately, some fell through the cracks. Like any case, somebody will always, be left out. What else could they have done? I don't know. I'm not them. We did our part. We followed up on ours and we solved the case.
And you were also there for his when he was put to death in '94. What did you make of the protests coming from both sides of the field for people that were anti death penalty? What did you make of the big spectacle that people were like, kill the clown, and then there were some people that were like, no, he shouldn't be put to death? What did you make of it, and what was that day like for you?
I didn't put any stock in any of it. I mean, there's going to be people protesting everything. If you, I think they've used this one with the last president. If you cured cancer, you'd have protesters saying you put doctors out of work. So somebody's going to protest about any and everything. It didn't bother me. I was all for the death penalty. I think he was the poster child for it.
Mm-hmm.
People disagree with me on that, but that's my belief. And no, it didn't affect me one way or the other.
And what has been the response since this docuseries premiered on Peacock? What have you heard from viewers or people about this docuseries? Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Well, I've received a lot of comments from friends, people that I know, saying they were amazed at what we did and they never knew how much or how involved we were into this investigation. It's been a pretty positive reaction from most everybody. I think my biggest cheerleader is my baby sister. She keeps telling everybody that her brother's there.
I love it. Rafael, what was your hope when you signed on to be involved in this project that you wanted viewers at home to take away? What did you hope people would learn from this?
I want everybody to know that serial killers are everywhere.
Mm,
I mean, you have to be really careful. Something doesn't seem right, say something. I mean, Des Plaines for a small town, 62,000 people.
right.
During my career, there was actually 2 serial killers in that town.
Wow.
So, I want people to be aware. I want them to know that if someone is acting weird, tell somebody. I mean, it could be the key that you need to open up an investigation on something. I'm not gonna go, bust people's doors down on a thought, but we'll put it in the back of our mind and we'll look into it.
Wow. And what did you make of the accomplices theory that he had help with, the digging in the crawl spaces under his home? Because that was also brought up in court, the Rossi and Cram. What did you make of that? Do you feel like the investigation was quick to, or the prosecution was quick to, want to have an open and shut case and get Gacy put away to the death penalty? Did you guys not look into accomplice theory?
Well,
Could you guys have put more thought into it, is what I'm asking.
well, we knew that Rossi had helped dig the trenches. I mean, he so much as told us. He said he was told they were to help the drainage. There was a drainage problem under the house, a crawl space there. It was pretty high there, so it seeps up. So, and as far as that's understandable.
Right.
Now, we have no evidence, and he was interrogated at length, that he actually did anything other than dig the trenches. I can't speak for what the prosecution felt one way or the other, what decisions they made. I was not part of that. That's not my part. Is to bring the evidence that I have to you, and then you figure out what you're going to charge him with. We brought him the evidence of homicides, and that's what they charged him with. Anything further than that would be speculation, because we have no information that, yes, Rossi or Cram, either one of them actually did anything.
Looking back, Rafael, do you have any regrets in your work on this case?
None whatsoever. I did what I had to do. I hope that I did it correctly. My only problem was that people wouldn't come forth to help us identify the remaining victims. I'd like the closure on that we identify them, have them in their own grave instead of Potter's grave where they're located now.
Right. Rafael, piercing TV. I'm a true crime fan, and I mean, it was piercing. Even the part of him being referred to as prolific, right?
Yes.
What did you, was he, why was he considered prolific? Why was he held to this standard? I guess is what I'm wondering, because like you said, serial killers are everywhere, right? Was he just a smarter serial killer than the average?
Well, he was very smart in the sense that who he targeted as victims.
Right.
He did mess up. He picked up a good kid at the end, and that was his downfall.
Rafael, thank you for your work. Thank you for talking to us today. Amazing job on this docu-series. Thank you so much.
Where is the buzz? You said was mine.
Where is the buzz?